The bluest skies you've ever seen are in Seattle.
Hey everybody, it's Alex, host of the Doomed Planet podcast. This is episode 83. Clarence Hillman, seedy Seattle real estate developer. The title is subject to change, as is the tagline for our podcast, which is currently Seattle Outlaws. And there's a public domain Wikipedia picture of Lane Staley on there. Of course, Lane wouldn't hurt a fly. Definitely an outlaw if you considered possession of illegal drugs to be, a crime. I don't.
Put that coffee down.
Clarence Hillman. Hillman City is the neighborhood right next to Columbia City, very close, dangerously close to where the Doom Planet podcast studios are. He was born in 1870, came to California in 1891. A lot of wealthy people came out to the West Coast to build their fortunes, and then there are just some rabble-rousers like Clarence Hillman. According to a story which probably is apocryphal, it's hard to verify, probably told by Hillman himself, he's on a train when he heard some businessmen talking about a house that the train passed. The businessman said he'd buy the house for $20,000. Hillman got off the train at the next stop, offered the owner of the house $15,000, tracked down the businessman, sold him the property for $20,000, and then he found his calling. Again, we are pulling stuff from old-timey newspapers and, of course, historylink.org. David Wilma wrote a good essay about Clarence Hillman. So maybe he wasn't that much of a rabble-rouser if that story is to be believed. He had $15,000 in cash in 1891. Gold, whiskey, and prostitutes. Seattle in 1896. The nation, according to HistoryLink, struggling out of the latest boom and bust cycle, the Panic of 1893. So he platted a subdivision around Green Lake. His timing was excellent. The discovery of gold in the Klondike turned Seattle into a boom town. So what Hillman would do is take land that had recently been logged. They murdered the old-growth forests to pave the way for the white man. That's believed to be little value, maybe because of the stumps. And then he would plat that out into lots, and then he'd, the real estate trick as old as time, you find a farm and you plat that out and suddenly it's a suburb and you've made a fortune. He's quite a showman. He had excursions where he would take people on these tours. According to HistoryLink, by 1902, Hillman had sold 7,000 lots. Lakefront Division near Seward Park, that would be Wild World News podcast studios, recording Doom Planet right now, would be right there. Woodland Park, did other stuff outside of Seattle. At this neighborhood at that time, unincorporated into Seattle, the Rainier Valley. And Kennydale, a suburb where a lot of cops live now. They make $150,000 a year right out of 8th grade, probably dropped out of high school, and they come in and they're an occupying force in Seattle, and then they go live in some chud suburb. Kennydale is named for his wife, Bessie Kenny, her maiden name, who hated Clarence. In 1903, he's already getting in trouble. People are buying his lots sight unseen by the mail. People on the East Coast not as savvy as he, giving him money and coming out. Wheat 12 feet high, strawberries as big as teacups. Some of the buyers of lots found that Green Lake, still with us today, kind of a yuppie neighborhood now. The lots they bought were underwater. The scheme that failed him, according to HistoryLink again, is he bought some property in Everett, more logged off shit marsh property. And he planted elephant grass. We'll get to that. to hide the slash, which is basically stumps that, before backhoes and stuff, very hard to remove stumps from these old growth trees that were killed. June 12th, 1910, Hillman ran ads in all of Seattle's 3 daily newspapers. Those were the days we had 3 daily newspapers. Grand free excursion to the new city of Birmingham. June 14th, 1910, buyers crowded Pier 6 at University Street to get a free seat for the cruise on the steamer Venus. There was a brass band and a picnic lunch. This would make a great movie. Buyers saw 3 impressive docks in Birmingham. A sign welcomed buyers to a boardwalk that went for 2 miles on the beach. That's hard to believe. A department store, 2 general stores, a school. It turns out these were fake stores manned by actors. Here's the Seattle Star, June 14th, 1910. Big ol' ad in there. Grand free excursion Wednesday to the new city of Birmingham. And there's actually a picture of the elephant grass. Grass, it says. We have received over 4,000 telephone calls in regard to this property since this ad started to run. The fast news steamer Venus leaves Pier 6, foot of University Street at 9:30 a.m., returning early in evening. History Link loves to pull from these old-timey newspapers. One thing I don't have access to is the Seattle Times archive, other than going to the library and looking at it on microfiche, which I don't know if they even still have that. There's either a paywall or they don't even have access to that for researchers. Everyone is invited to ride free at our expense to the grand opening of 3,000 acres at $65 to $150 an acre on terms of $2 a month. Right on this side of the sound, 8 freshwater lakes full of trout and bass, fine beach clams, oysters, free camping sites. Seattle is larger than ever. Land will never be so cheap again. Boy, if you only knew in 1910, Clarence. The high cost of living in cities, everyone is going to the country. We need several more good, reliable salesmen to work for us at good wages. Okay, so he wants buyers, but he's like, I can't pull this, scheme on my own. I need some bunco hustlers here to help me out. We only hire honest, reliable men. Our references are National Bank of Commerce or any bank or businessman in Seattle. By this time, he's already been outed as a scam artist, but whatever. You read this ad in the newspaper and, how would you know? We have sold 25,000 people their homes. See cuts of grass 6 feet high here. Yeah, it's the elephant grass designed to hide the stumps. Get free maps of this trip. Free at C.D. Hillman's offices. We are the largest owners in the state. Okay, so crime pays and advertising pays. Buyers felt cheated by this. Hillman claimed he sold 5,000 acres in 5-acre tracts. U.S. District Attorney Elmer Todd was not fooled. He tracked Hillman until Hillman began using the U.S. mail. Then we nail him for mail fraud. Elmer Todd, another amazing character. He's going to go on to co-own the Seattle Times because Colonel Alden Blethen was such a spendthrift and like the Thomas Jefferson of Seattle, wasting all his money on fine wine and stuff, ended up in financial trouble. So Clarence goes on trial in 1911, is covered by the Seattle Star. He's convicted of 13 counts of mail fraud, sentenced to 2.5 years of prison, appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, which upheld the conviction, and then he served time at McNeil Island, the hideous prison in Washington State. It's an island of death. If you want to know more about McNeil Island, see Doomed Planet podcast, episode 3, Sex Offender Island. Got out of jail. He's pardoned by President Taft. We'll get to that and settled in San Diego and Pasadena. The guy's not stupid. Like, I'm rich, and it's the early teens, 1913 or something. Where would you go? LA. Can you imagine in LA at that time? No smog. The movie industry is like, if you would meet these people, you'd meet everybody. Beautiful orange groves, not yet paved over. And his wife filed for a divorce 3 times, but they remained married. Hillman died in 1935 after a long life of scamming people and making a fortune doing it. Thank you to HistoryLink for summing that up for us. Hillman City, a residential neighborhood of Rainier Valley, annexed by Seattle in 1907. It was first homesteaded by M.D. Wooden in 1863. So that's the first guy to come and say, Indians, get the fuck out, or if you're already gone from disease or being forced out already, good, because I'm going to make some money here. Boy, there's some current landlords in this area that we could cover. Neighborhood named after Clarence Hillman. He platted the area. Again, that's kill the Indians, steal their land, and then come in and you mark your territory. Territorial pissings, literally. Did I just make a Kurt Cobain reference? I feel sick for doing that, but we have to mention Kurt, who I hate, in every episode of Doom Planet. Michaela Woodward, director of the Rainier Valley Historical Society. I should have stopped by there, but I don't have time. I do my own thing. This is not journalism. It's just fun. We were named after a sleazy charlatan, she said. Seattle pioneer Birdsey Wetmore lived in Hillman City until his death in 1909. Birdsey, that's a great name, is buried in Lakeview Cemetery, as is Clarence Hillman, although his grave is unmarked. Lakeview, of course, my favorite cemetery. Bruce Lee's buried there, many others. Wikipedia says by 2007, the neighborhood was showing some signs of recovery. I guess it showed some signs of recovery. It's being gentrified. Columbia City, right to the north, more gentrified. Some fun things about Hillman City. Some rich people decided to open a Peruvian chicken place called Big Chicky at a former gas station or something. And it worked out for a few years. Really good food. Tons of great side dishes. And, of course, delicious Peruvian rotisserie chicken as made by white people. It's hard to make it in the restaurant business. And then there's a woman, a real estate agent, and you can see her sign in Hillman City. I'm just not going to mention her name, but rumor has it she killed her father, and she owns a mini real estate empire. I guess I won't also mention this guy who I've met who owns a shitload of property in Rainier Valley, started buying it up in the late 1960s, early 1970s when the neighborhood was in decline. Of course, at that period, you had white flight, people leaving for the suburbs. And also, they built the I-90 bridge was completed during this time, making it really easy for people to just, bust out of Seattle and go live in the suburbs, leave all the filth and decay of a declining city behind. I mentioned Columbia City, which is Hillman City's sister neighborhood to the north. And before I forget, I want to mention that we profiled a more recent huckster and real estate bunco artist who helped develop Columbia City in the modern age in Doomed Planet episode number 30, Seattle scam artist Craig Diefenbach. Also worth mentioning, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell lives in Seward Park, right next to Hillman City, in a beautiful, expensive house, and he's a part owner of the Royal Esquire Club in Columbia City, right on the border of Hillman City. This is a black male-only, more or less private club. Just to be clear, 8,000 BC to 10,000 or so years ago, the lake people, or people of the large lake, related to but distinct from the Duwamish, hard to pronounce the actual spelling there, people of the inside, tribe of the Lutschutzi, Skagit, Nisqually, Coast Salish nations, Duwamish tribe. People were living here before the Chuds came, okay? And what a beautiful place to live without parking lots or cars. Just on a side note, I was almost killed by one of those new Rivian electric pickup trucks walking out in the neighborhood just now. And I guarantee you the person that was driving that, big ass old chud truck was not a carpenter or a plumber or even a sculptor. Definitely not a farmer. It was some dude that writes code for Andy Jassy at Amazon, and that's sad. I mean, the only good thing is that the truck is electric. Treaty of Point Elliott of 1855. That's when we fucked the Indians officially. In 1891, an electric trolley came to Rainier Valley going from Seattle to Renton and beyond. Imagine that, like light rail. Oh, we just rebuilt that, and now we have it again more than 100 years later. In between, we have the destructive, selfish concept of cars, single occupancy commuting vehicles. Wikipedia calls Clarence Hillman an early sharp operator, namesake of Hillman City. He designated Rainier Beach, nearby Hillman City, as the Atlantic City residential development, naming it after New Jersey, but that didn't stick, that name. Okay, let's dredge up some dirt on Clarence Hillman from old-time newspapers. Thanks to the Washington State Library in Olympia. The Seattle Republican, October 31st, wow, Halloween, 1902. Just a legal notice. The state of Washington, H.A. King and Clarence D. Hillman, defendants, you are hereby summoned to appear within 60 days after the date of first publication of this summons. The plaintiff's attorney, failure to do so, judgment. It's funny, to this day, it's required to publish legal notices in newspapers, and there are some, we won't go down that rabbit hole, but there are some newspapers in Seattle that still make money doing that. Doesn't make sense in the digital age. A deed covering south half of southwest quarter, northwest, declared a mortgage, plaintiff attorneys. Okay, so he's in some trouble for real estate fuckery in 1902. He hasn't been in town that long. The Evening Statesman in Walla Walla, November 2nd, 1904. Real estate man arrested. Clarence D. Hillman charged with running fraudulent business. And again, this guy died 30 more years of fraud after this article was published. Clarence Hillman, real estate broker and the owner of the Garden of Eden edition, was placed under arrest by detectives Wappenstein on the charge of obtaining money under false pretenses. When the warrant was served upon him in his office, Hillman made no resistance, but a number of his clients did. The expose of Hillman's alleged fraudulent methods in securing buyers for his lots brought a score or more of Hillman's patrons to his office to make inquiries into how they stood and what chance they had to get their money back that they had paid in. Angry men demand money. The real estate man's arrest was the last straw that caused a general onslaught in his office. This is really a Michael Cimino movie, starring Chris Christopherson as Hillman. You imagine all these gruff, smelly Seattle guys gathering into this fraudster's office. Oh, what is this? Hillman, here. Speak to me now, sir. You're being arrested. What of my stake? He promised them clear titles to the land that they had purchased. There was a general uproar when the officer came in to arrest him. The occurrence was described by the officer as less than a small mob demonstration. He feared he would be compelled to take Hillman by force. He was finally slipped through a door and taken to the street down the elevator. Bond was fixed at $500 and he was released. Again, rich people don't spend a lot of time in jail. This guy is rich as shit at this point and he can buy his way out of this. Jay Cann and Frank Hemlow alleged that they were buncoed out of $150 by Hillman and his chief lieutenant or consigliere, Lawrence S. Forrest. A warrant was sworn out against Forrest, too. These people say they saw advertisements where Hillman was asking for foremen of warehouses he allegedly owned. They applied for jobs and were told they could have them. It was required that they should first purchase land in the Garden of Eden addition. That's sleazy, dude. Clarence. So, yeah, I'll give you a job, but I want you to buy a piece of property from me first just to make it real. Tired of stalls. They were stalled from one thing until another. Just the Bernie Madoff thing. Call me back in a week. I swear we got you covered. I'm waiting for this deal to trade. They went to the chief of police, snitches. Complaints sworn into the prosecuting attorney's office. Officers are investigating the case. There will be some sensational developments made as to the methods that Hillman has used to separate unsuspecting victims from their money on various kinds of promises, none of which have any semblance of being fulfilled. This is the American dream, you know? You want, like, making a good living, doing real estate, or making a small fortune. That's not enough. The thrill is ripping people off, bro.
Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
Seattle Republican, May 1906. Clarence Hillman is to have a new trial, which we suspect will result in his acquittal. Okay, so the Seattle Republican has the right idea. This is not new. Rich people rarely go to jail. Rich people can buy the best lawyers. Rich people can get out of it and have President of the United States, Howard Taft, pardon them. This is a great quote. And again, I want to plug our Bad Billionaires podcast. Go look for that. There's only one episode right now. It's Howard Schultz. Painful to hear about him because he's just an unlikable dick. But I'm trying to avoid all these cliches about the wealthy in the Bad Billionaires podcast. But the Seattle Republican. It seems to be as difficult to convict a man of wealth, though he may be guilty, as it were for the proverbial camel to trot through the eye of a cambric needle. The Newport Miner, Newport, Washington, September 1st, 1910, realty fraud charged. Clarence Hillman, Seattle real estate man, held in $20,000 bail. Federal warrants charged conspiracy to use the mail to defraud, issued to Clarence Hillman and a couple of his flunkies. Penalty could be 5 years in the penitentiary. Specific charge laid against Hillman was based on a new real estate deal Hillman is now engaged on 10 miles from Everett. He was convicted on a similar charge in 1905. At that time, he appealed to the Supreme Court, and a new trial was granted. Hillman should have been, for some reason, his new trial was never held. He never went to jail for that. The Seattle Star, here we go, front page, headline, huge 30-point type. Hillman is indicted on enough counts to send him to the pen for 92 years. Used mails to defraud jury. The Tacoma Times, October 12, 1910. May sue Hillman. Thomas Harvey filed separate suits in Superior Court against Clarence Hillman following his indictment by a federal grand jury for conspiracy to defraud. Innumerable suits have been filed by Hillman's alleged victims since he was indicted. Okay, so you get that unwanted attention, and suddenly everyone is coming out of the wormwood to sue you, get their piece. Hillman declares he will fight his case to the Supreme Court. Sadly, I'm looking to the right of this article, and there's a cartoon that is very racist, depicting a minority group, as natives with spears and exaggerated features. And that's normal, people. I mean, 1910 in any newspaper in the country, that's normal. It doesn't stop there. Look in the 1920s and see what you find. Daily Capital Journal. Seattle millionaire indicted for swindling. The indictments are sustained. Hillman must go to trial. He is alleged to have swindled hundreds of poor persons by selling worthless real estate on the weekly payment plan. So, yeah, he was operating as a bank too, right? Like, no bank is going to give you a loan to buy from this bunco artist, but hey, I'll be the bank. I'll sign you up for a loan. Worthless real estate. Jump ahead a couple years here. The Bryan Daily Eagle in Texas. So these old-time racist newspapers, there are wire services, primitive at the time, but these people share articles and reprint articles from other papers. Clarence D. Hillman, the real estate dealer who has been serving a term on McNeil Island, was discharged today, his sentence having been commuted by President Taft on account of good behavior. We don't have the budget here at Wild World News Network to do a whole bunch of research, but why on earth would the President of the United States pardon this real estate scammer? Other than that, they ran in the same circles and they are money buddies, rich guys. The Day Book, March 10th, 1915. Millionaire, a cruel man, charges wife. Mrs. Clarence Dayton Hillman, wife of Pasadena, California, multi-millionaire, after what she terms 16 years of unhappy married life, is suing for divorce. Married at 16. Well, that was normal back then, so we can't, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. No, that's normal in 1901, they must have been married. Hillman says her divorce suit is the culmination of continued mental and physical cruelties. 11 years ago, similar action was filed by Mrs. Hillman. She's asking for the custody of the 7 children. Again, in early 20th century, that was normal to have 7 children. Now that's considered completely sick. 1916, the Seattle Star. Hillman must pay $20,000 law fee. Clarence Hillman of Pasadena, California, formerly of Seattle, was instructed to pay his California lawyers $20,000 in fees as a result of a decision handed down this week by Judge Schenck for services rendered in what is known as the Estrella Ranch Corporation case. Hillman was supposed to exchange certain business blocks and other property in Seattle and ranches in Oregon and California owned by him for the Estrella. Again, so he's scam for a ranch. And, 1920, the Idaho Springs News. Bunco ring on Pacific Coast. $1 million swindle revealed to county grand jury at San Francisco. This is almost 20 years since Clarence Hillman started appearing in newspapers for being a scam artist. Fictitious lawsuits, telegrams, and deeds used in big conspiracy from the Western Newspaper Union News Service, San Francisco. Details of alleged swindling conspiracy. Edward Weinman and Catherine of San Luis Obispo were relieved of $100,000 in property and cash. Indictments have been voted against Clarence Hillman and a couple of his co-conspirators. The plot started last November, according to McKay's statement to jury, when the alleged conspirators, I wonder if they're conspiring to do something, offered to purchase the Bunker Ranch in Solano County from the Winemouse family for $300,000. Again, this is the idiocy of real estate. Number one, steal the land from who owns it, the Indians, and kill them, drive them out. Number two, divide up the land and then resell it to suckers. But in this case, a ranch, well, yeah, that's, okay, we're going to buy this ranch and then we're going to subdivide it to create the paved over wonderland that is now Southern California. The Weinmans were stripped of $900,000 in property and borrowed money. Grand larceny warrants sworn out against Hillman and his co-conspirators. Hillman is a wealthy resident of Pasadena. He's not going to jail, man. He's incredibly rich. He was in the right place in the right time. A white person with some business savvy coming out to take his piece of the stolen Indian land.
You think I'm fucking with you?
Friday, June 4th, 1920, land dealers arrested for conspiracy. The Cordova Daily Times swindled their victims out of nearly $1 million. San Francisco and Seattle real estate promoters in alleged fraudulent deals. Well, crime does pay. Clarence Hillman, great criminal, great Seattle outlaw, if the definition of outlaw is breaking the law. And unfortunately, breaking the law a lot of times means taking advantage of people and fucking them over and stealing their money. You did it. And then, he did do time in a horrible prison for a couple years. Then he got pardoned. Most of his life, he's very rich. He was an asshole. He was abusive to his wife, I guess. God knows, how he treated his 7 children. Yeah, okay, that's it. The Doom Planet Podcast, episode 83. Clarence Hillman, real estate fuckhead. I'm not sure if that will be the final title.
Today, we're in the Hillman City neighborhood of Seattle. Hillman City is primarily a residential neighborhood in southeast Seattle, located in the Rainier Valley and centered about a mile south of the Columbia City neighborhood.
Okay, that's a wrap for Doomed Planet Podcast, episode 83, Seattle Real Estate Sleaze, Clarence Hillman. I am your host, Alex. You can message me on Twitter at Doomed Planet Pod. You can go to doomedplanet.com and that will take you somewhere. And hey, our new podcast, Bad Billionaires. Seek that out. The second episode is going to be about billionaire romance fiction. Yeah. Goodbye.
When the terminal city gets me down, I'm heading south. I'm Seattle bound. Oh, I'm Seattle bound. Seattle bound. I'm Seattle bound. Seattle bound. I'm gonna wash my face in a Puget Sound. Get out of my way. I'm Seattle bound.
5, 6, 7, 8. Goodbye. This is the end.